Every year, millions of people travel the world to the places where miracles happen. And Italy boasts some of the most mysterious miracles on record. In Naples, each year on the same day, the blood of the city's patron saint miraculously changes from a solid to a bubbling liquid.
Real blood doesn't behave that way.
On the spur of Italy's boot, a man who reportedly bled like Christ has turned a small village into a destination for pilgrims from around the globe.
He wanted to be like Jesus.
And on the Adriatic coast, a small church claims it has miraculous relics of Christ's very own flesh and blood.
I know he's like a living flesh.
I'm Flavia Colgan. My background, religious studies at Harvard. And now my quest for answers is taking me to Italy's miracle sites to uncover the truth behind this country's most famous blood miracles. Next on Miracle Quest. In Italy, signs of the divine are everywhere. From weeping Madonnas, to bleeding rocks, to mysterious healings. Nearly 2,000 years of devout Catholic tradition and the presence of the Pope in Rome have kept Italy at the center of the Christian world. It's also made it a breeding ground for some of the world's oldest and most unusual miracles. Among the strangest are reports of Eucharistic miracles, unexplained occurrences where communion hosts become flesh and wine miraculously turns to blood. But that's not all. More than any other place in the world, Italy boasts some of the most famous cases of stigmata, where people physically experience the crucifixion wounds of Christ. To the faithful, these blood miracles are manifestations of God's existence. But to others, they're simply events science still can't explain. The highest concentration of these blood miracles can be found in the south of Italy, an area commonly referred to as the Mezzogiorno region, meaning land of the midday sun in Italian, because of its warm climate year-round. Can bread really turn to flesh and blood change states? Can some people suffer the wounds of Christ on their own body? My quest begins right here in Naples, and what a great place to start, because this is the city that boasts more miracles related to blood and flesh than any other place in Italy. Naples, the third most populated city in Italy. It sits on the Bay of Naples, Mount Vesuvius looming in the distance. For visitors, the 6th century Castel dell'Ovo and Piazza del Gesù Nuovo are among the many landmarks that can't be missed, reminders of Naples' rich and diverse past. It's a loud, bustling metropolis with a history going back nearly 5,000 years. In fact, this southern city was once nicknamed Urbe Sanguinum, or City of Bloods, for its unusual habit of putting vials of saints' blood on display. The most famous one is the blood relic of San Gennaro. Every year, thousands of people come to see its miraculous properties come to life. We're just in time for the most famous miracle in Naples, the Feast of San Gennaro. 3 times a year, the blood of this 1,600-year-old patron saint is supposed to transform miraculously from a solid to a bubbling liquid. And locals say if it doesn't, bad things will happen. Is this all just superstition, or is there really something miraculous going on here? I decided to ask some locals.
Ogni volta che avviene la liquefazione è metaforicamente un miracolo, si sta tutti bene, tutti tranquilli. Quando non avviene, diciamo, la liquefazione, quindi non il miracolo, è sempre orda di risiamo di disgrazie.
People here are religious and then superstitious.
Superstitious.
Yes. Oh, very much.
Yeah. That might explain why so many people attend this event. The festival begins with a ceremony in Naples' main church, or Duomo, a massive Gothic cathedral that's 13 stories tall and dedicated to San Gennaro, the city's patron saint who was reportedly beheaded as a martyr in 305 AD. Wow, this is really incredible. This is so beautiful. The church's museum director, Dr. Paolo Iorio, has promised me a front row seat. So this is where the miracle happens.
That's right. It happens here.
Yeah.
It happens 3 times in here.
The ceremony's procession starts in a side chapel where San Gennaro's treasures are kept, including the blood relic in its antique display case known as a teca. I'm going to see the blood going to liquid. I'm going to see that today.
I hope that, because it doesn't happen every time, but it happens.
The first record of San Gennaro's blood liquefying was in 1389, even though he was beheaded 1,000 years earlier. Since then, the miracle is supposed to happen every time his blood is reunited with his head, now kept in a gold bust in the chapel. But even with tradition on their side, the Neapolitans do everything they can to help the miracle along. What are they saying when they're singing? San Gennaro, I got that part.
Right.
San Gennaro.
Make the miracle, please. Make the miracle.
The bishop's arrival means it's time to get the blood out of the vault. And as Paolo tells me, sometimes the results are surprising.
Sometimes the blood is already liquefied.
Before it comes out?
That's right.
But if it's liquefied before it comes out, wouldn't less people believe in it? Because then they could do something back there.
No, they believe in it. It's hard. It's pretty hard.
Yeah, totally hard.
And it's black now. When it liquefies, it's red.
Solid black blood means the miracle hasn't happened yet. So it's time to watch and wait as the blood is carried in a procession to the main church. The minute the relic is out of the chapel, everyone swarms into the church. Paolo tells me how to push my way up to the front. If the miracle happens, I want to be close enough to see it. It's going to turn beautiful. It's still Thousands of Neapolitans have shown up to watch the blood, waiting anxiously for it to liquefy. History says that if there's no miracle, it spells disaster. The last time it didn't happen, an earthquake struck Naples, killing 26 school children. The crowd holds its breath as a member of the clergy takes the relic out to see if it's liquid yet. When it comes to miracles, I'm learning you have to have a lot of patience. Joy and relief sweep through the crowd. They believe Naples will be safe for another year. She's crying because she's so happy. She believes in the miracle. You guys saw it. It was, I don't know, I guess that's what you call a miracle. It was hard. It was black. They brought it here. People said, we hope, San Gennaro, bring the miracle, bring the miracle. And San Gennaro looks like he was listening. I kept waiting for red. They told me red over there. He told me, no, it doesn't have to be red. It just has to be liquid. I don't know. I'm going to be curious to see how someone explains that. Naples has often been considered the capital of southern Italy. It's also one of the only cities in Europe that boasts an active volcano only 7 miles away. It's a city rich in culture, history, and tradition, with a devout Catholic population. Could this explain why so many locals show up for the miracle of San Gennaro? 3 times a year, the blood relic of Naples' 1,700-year-old saint changes from solid to liquid as if by magic. By all accounts, this phenomenon is scientifically impossible. Blood cannot turn from solid to liquid without the help of an outside agent. So could this truly be a sign of the divine? That was unbelievable. I definitely saw the blood in the vial. It was moving. And I know there are people who think it's completely a hoax and that science can explain everything I just saw in there. And I cannot wait to get to the bottom of it. The locals I'd met on my way into the cathedral had their own take on the miracle.
È l'aspetto simbolico che conta, quindi la purificazione del male di Napoli e del corpo di Napoli attraverso la liquefazione del sangue.
È possibile perché la gente ci crede.
Do you believe in the miracle?
Sì e no.
Why see, why no?
Sì, perché il miracolo l'ho visto adesso, il sangue che si è liquefatto. No, perché la realtà mi dice che i miracoli è difficile crederli.
Ma diciamo che si rinnova ogni volta che si scioglie il sangue dell'ampolla, che tuttora scientificamente non è stato ancora trovato niente.
Stabilito che cosa è,
niente.
Se è sangue.
Quindi è un miracolo.
Vero, meno.
Un miracolo deve essere tranquillamente.
The Neapolitans seemed pretty sure of their miracle, but I wanted to know if science had another explanation. I met up with Dr. Luigi Garlischelli, a chemist who spent more than 15 years trying to figure out what's behind the miracle of San Gennaro. What's your hypothesis going into these tests? Do you say, I assume the miracle's not happening, let's find out?
Of course, you are trying to give a rational explanation, a natural explanation, not a supernatural explanation, because a supernatural explanation is not an explanation.
To some people, it could be an explanation. You're saying it's not a scientific explanation.
Scientific
Right,
explanation.
Okay. We're going into this experiment assuming the liquid is not blood, because none of this would happen if it were real blood, correct?
Real blood doesn't behave that way.
But San Gennaro's blood does, at least according to believers. Luigi has his doubts that it's even blood at all. That's why he's come up with his own concoction, which he says behaves exactly like the blood miracle I just saw. According to Luigi, it could easily have been created back in the Middle Ages when the relic first appeared in Naples.
The starting compound is this iron chloride. In the Middle Age, could be found on the Vesuvius, which is near Naples.
In medieval times, iron chloride was known as malachite, a mineral that's made when lava mixes with rocks that contain iron. The fact that Vesuvius was an active volcano and only a few miles away was a pretty big coincidence. Calcium carbonate, or marble, the next ingredient, was also readily available around Naples.
It was used as a white pigment by artists and painters.
But I was curious. What kind of a person would decide to come up with something like this?
Well, I think an artist experimenting with new pigments and a new mineral found maybe near Naples.
At the time, it was normal for artists to make their own paint. I also found out that in 1389, when San Gennaro's blood first liquefied, Naples' Duomo, or main cathedral, was under construction. So artists from all over Italy were working in the city. After a few more steps involving animal bladders,
Very thin.
and other substances used in medieval times, Dr. Garlischelli's fake blood sample was ready.
Okay, you tilt the flask and you turn it upside down, and it is solid. Okay, it doesn't move. But if you keep moving it, after a while, it will liquefy, you see?
This looks very, very similar to what happened at the church. You don't have any samples here that have lasted like 1,200 years.
Not yet.
Yeah, no, because you look good for your age if you did.
I know,
Right,
thank you.
Okay. Is this totally conclusive?
Then we will meet in 300 years from now, and we will see.
Although Dr. Goloskeli makes a pretty convincing argument, there are still holes. Even he doesn't know how to make a substance that will last for 1,200 years, and he can't prove there isn't really blood in the vial. Is the blood of San Gennaro truly miraculous, or is it a simple hoax? Until the vial is opened to reveal what's inside, no one will ever know. But my quest continues. I'm heading east to Italy's Adriatic coast to investigate the stigmata of Padre Pio, who reportedly bled like Christ from his hands and feet. If that's not a miracle, then what could it be? My next stop, Italy's Gargano Peninsula. It's been known as a Holy Land since the 5th century AD, when visions of the Archangel Michael were reported in the grotto of Monte San Angelo. Now, the peninsula's limestone cliffs and dense forest are protected as one of the region's largest national parks. I'm heading deep into Gargano's hills to San Giovanni Rotondo in search of the truth behind one of the most unusual miracles in modern times. San Giovanni Rotondo sits at the top of a hill overlooking the plains of the Puglia region of Italy. The old town has kept its slow pace of life. But up these winding streets is the new heart of the small city. It's also the final destination for the millions of pilgrims who come here each year to pray to their favorite priest and miracle worker. Hi, you guys. Where are you guys from?
San Diego, California.
San Diego. That is far away. Why'd you come all the way here?
My grandpa and my grandma, very devotion on Padre Pio. My mom and daddy too. So, from little one, I have this big devotion to Padre Pio.
Perché Padre Pio mi ha dato un'altra possibilità di vivere. Ho avuto un grave incidente e miracolosamente sono riuscito fuori illeso, come potete vedere.
Who was this man who bled from his hands, feet, and side and supposedly healed the sick from beyond? Many people think he was touched by God, which is why today, San Giovanni is the second most visited Catholic shrine in the world. I've come to San Giovanni Rotondo to investigate the miracle of stigmata. Once a quiet rural community, it's now become what some call the Las Vegas of the faithful, thanks to its most famous resident, Padre Pio. For 50 years, this Franciscan priest bore the 5 crucifixion wounds of Christ, one in each of his hands and feet, and one in his side. Some reports say that he bled almost a cup of blood every day. Was his stigmata divine intervention or self-mutilation? That's what I'm here to find out. Padre Pio first moved to San Giovanni Rotondo as a priest in 1916, when there wasn't much more to the village than a monastery. The young friar was considered kind, but troubled, often having visions of angels and wrestling nightly with devils. For much of his life, Padre Pio barely ate and would often slip into trances which left him beaten and bruised. Eventually, even the church grew suspicious of this eccentric priest who suffered like Christ. Was he a martyr or a masochist? I wasn't sure what to believe, so I paid a visit to the place he'd called home for more than 50 years. The Monastery of Our Lady of Grace and its adjoining church, Santa Maria delle Grazie.
And this is the cell number 5, where Padre Pio lived during many years.
It's a little bit dark and a bit creepy.
Oh yes, it's a very poor place.
This is really small. So this is the cell where Padre Pio lived, and this is all of his stuff?
Yes, he didn't have many things.
By the time he got here, was he still having visions?
Yes, he had visions of the Virgin Mary and also visions of devils.
He struggled with devils a lot in his life.
Yes.
Yeah. Clearly, Padre Pio was a man of extremes, but that doesn't prove that his stigmata was miraculous.
This is the old church, Santa Maria delle Grazie.
This is the church where he got his stigmata, is it not?
Yes, here, Padre Pio was seated in the old choir of this church, and a figure, an heaven figure, appeared to him, and then he lost consciousness. And when he woke up, he found on his body, on his hands, on his feet, and on his side, blood, the same stigmata of our Lord.
Why would the church be so skeptical of someone who was clearly a pretty remarkable and unique person?
They didn't believe him, and maybe they believe he was a liar.
In the Catholic faith, it's up to the Vatican to decide what constitutes a miracle, and it's a responsibility the church doesn't take lightly.
The church has to be skeptical of miracles. The church has to be sure that God is acting when it says to the faithful, "This is the finger of God in your life." And that is a very serious and a very momentous declaration.
Church leaders were nervous about a man who bled like Christ, read people's souls, and had a cult following. But the faithful continued to believe in Padre Pio, even after his death in 1968. Claudia led me downstairs to Padre Pio's resting place. Famous Christians like Pope John Paul II and Mother Teresa have come to pray here. And every year, more than 6 million people make a pilgrimage to the site. They offer prayers and money, hoping Padre Pio will work miracles for them from heaven, even though the man lying in the tomb no longer bears the wounds of Christ. So tell me about the night Padre Pio died. I've read that all of the wounds from the stigmata were gone. There were no marks. He had stigmata for 50 years and there was no marks on his body at all.
No marks.
And no blood?
No.
For 50 years, Padre Pio had open wounds on his hands, feet, and side. But 3 days before his death, all the marks disappeared. What did this reveal about his stigmata? Was it a lifelong hoax? Or did it mean that Padre Pio was truly touched by the divine? I decided to track down the one person who might have the answer, Dr. Pietro Violi. The doctor investigated Padre Pio's stigmata for the Vatican and became a believer after reviewing the facts. How do you know he had stigmata?
E abbiamo studiato per vedere se si trattasse di sangue, non solo, ma abbiamo studiato anche il DNA. E abbiamo visto che era sangue, non solo, ma che era il DNA di Padre Pio. Una persona così compita non poteva crearsi delle lesioni non per un dono soprannaturale.
Another thing that doesn't seem to have much explanation, when he died, people said that the stigmata healed, there was no scars, it was perfect. Could that be possible?
Scientificamente non è possibile.
In your medical opinion, you think that Padre Pio had stigmata?
Senza dubbio.
According to Dr. Violi, Padre Pio's wounds weren't self-inflicted. But does that mean they had to be the work of God? I thought the answers might lie just 2 hours away from San Giovanni, in the tiny village of Pietrelcina, Padre Pio's hometown. And that's where I'm headed next. I'm on my way to the Sannio region of Italy. It's in the southern portion of the Apennines, a mountain range that runs the length of the Italian peninsula like a bony spine. I'm headed there to find out more about one of Italy's most famous miracles, the stigmata of Padre Pio. For 50 years, this Franciscan priest bore the wounds of Christ, and from what I've gathered, he truly lived the life of a saint. As a child, he even used a brick as a pillow, a sure sign of someone who found solace in suffering. But are his wounds miraculous, or is there another explanation? I hoped his birthplace could reveal some answers. This This quaint medieval town is perched high on a rocky hillside known as La Morgia, or the Rock. Padre Pio used to play in Pietrelcina's narrow, winding streets. To this day, its residents enjoy a country pace of life.
Buongiorno. Buongiorno, buongiorno.
Pietrelcina was Padre Pio's home for 22 years of his life. For his followers, it's a destination that can't be missed. Pilgrims from around Italy and the world walk in the footsteps of the famous priest, paying their respects to the young country boy who became a figure worshipped by millions. But I needed help digging up the secrets of Padre Pio's past, so I met up with Donato Calabrese, a Pietrelcina native and Padre Pio's biographer.
Now, tell me about Padre Pio as a little boy. What was he like?
Padre Pio was a simple boy, very humble.
Did people realize when Padre Pio was little, did they know that he was very special?
No, he was a normal boy.
And I mean, I think I understand this, but he was using a brick for a pillow. So that's, to me, that's a little unusual.
Padre Pio wanted to be a victim. He wanted to be like Jesus.
I learned that Padre Pio is considered a victim soul, a person who willingly sacrifices their own needs and happiness for the well-being of others.
When Padre Pio was a little boy, how religious was he?
When he was 5 years old, in the church of Santa Anna, he saw Jesus. Jesus put his hand on his head. This moment will be the most important moment of his life.
At only 5 years old, Padre Pio, then known as Francesco, decided to dedicate his life to God. His devout parents, Grazio and Giuseppa Forgione, took him to Mass daily, and he began his lifelong habit of extreme fasting. I discovered there was also a darker side to Padre Pio. He was often sick, suffering from lung infections and high fevers, and he spent his entire life wrestling with visions of the devil. In fact, the path we were walking is called Via del Rosario, named after the rosary Padre Pio always carried for protection against hissing demons he saw along the way.
So where does this path lead?
Now we are going to the farmhouse of Padre Pio.
Once we arrived at the Forgione family farmhouse, I learned that Padre Pio's stigmata first appeared here while he was praying under an elm tree, and it lasted a month.
When he got his stigmata, was anyone there to see it?
No, he was alone.
Did you ever meet him? Did you see the stigmata?
I met him, but I never saw the stigmata because Padre Pio had gloves. And he discovered his stigmata only for the Holy Mass.
He only showed the stigmata during Mass.
Why would Padre Pio hide his stigmata if it was truly given to him by God? On the other hand, why would someone want to endure the physical pain of stigmata for 50 years? Could he have brought the stigmata on himself? I still wasn't sure that Padre Pio's stigmata wasn't a miracle. So I decided to head to Rome, where I hoped some of the world's most famous miracle investigators could answer my questions once and for all. Rome, the city of emperors, the cradle of Christianity, and home to the Vatican, the enduring seat of the Catholic Church. It's within these walls that priests and cardinals come together to decide which miracles are worth believing and which ones aren't. In fact, in order to become a saint, it's necessary to have 2 miracles recognized by the Church. Dr. Paolo Molinari has made the study of miracles his life's work for more than 40 years.
What do you think about stigmata?
I wouldn't call it a miracle as such.
Well, what could it be?
Well, it could be an action of God, or at times it could be even of the evil forces on a person. It's an extraordinary physical event.
Apparently, there was nothing about Padre Pio's life that the Church considered miraculous. Vatican priest Monsignor Sarno explained that the significant miracles actually happened after Padre Pio's death, once people started to pray to him.
Miracles which may or may not occur during life are basically what we call mystical gifts or spiritual gifts. Miracles performed after death are basically God telling us, giving us confirmation that the person is truly in heaven and really does have intercessory power.
The Church confirmed that after his death, Padre Pio miraculously healed 2 people.
One of them, Matteo Colella, still lives here in San Giovanni Rotondo. So I've come back to talk to his mother, Maria, to find out what really happened.
When your son was sick, what did the doctors predict? What did they think would happen to your son?
La del sangue aveva invaso tutti gli organi e per Matteo non c'era speranza e sono andata in chiesa e ho cominciato a chiedere a tutti di pregare con me e tutti insieme abbiamo pregato Gesù e Padre Pio.
How do you know that it was Padre Pio who did the miracle?
Lo so perché è successo qualcosa di straordinario. I medici non mi facevano vedere il bambino in quelle condizioni e allora io dicevo, Padre Pio, dagli la mano tu, insieme ai santi angeli. E quando Matteo si è svegliato, aveva ancora la febbre molto alta e tutti i tubi, per cui non poteva parlare. Ma sulle labbra, e aprendo e chiudendo la mano, lui chiedeva Padre Pio. Poi lui, piano piano, mi ha detto che quando era in coma, si vedeva nel letto con alla sua destra Padre Pio. Padre Pio sorrideva e gli ripeteva: non ti preoccupare Matteo, perché tu presto guarirai.
The doctors also believe it was Padre Pio?
Sì, e Matteo è un miracolo vivente.
It seemed that Padre Pio's involvement in Matteo's recovery was truly a miracle. In fact, it was one of the 2 miracles that allowed the Vatican to confirm Padre Pio's sainthood in 2002. Nearly 40 years after the death of Padre Pio, San Giovanni Rotondo is one of the most visited religious sites in the world. The new church, dedicated to Padre Pio, is the largest modern shrine in Europe. It took 10 years to build and more than 130,000 pounds of steel. At capacity, almost 40,000 people can squeeze onto its grounds. But tonight, it looks like it'll be more than that.
Tonight marks the end of a week-long pilgrimage that celebrates the anniversary of his death. Is he performing miracles from beyond? I'm going to join the crowds and see what they think. Padre Pio is coming out now. As you can see, everyone's really, really excited. They're bringing out his statue. This is the beginning of the procession of the Feast of Padre Pio.
The statue of Padre Pio is paraded across the church grounds and through the streets of San Giovanni Rotondo. It passes by the Casa Sollievo della Sofferenza, the hospital Padre Pio founded in 1956, considered today to be one of the best hospitals in Italy. The whole procession takes about 2 hours.
If you get hungry during a procession, no need to worry. You can go right in there, and you can get cheese, prosciutto. Padre Pio survived on 1 ounce of food. You don't have to. This is a good place to get a hotel room. You're right in the action.
Thousands of people from all over the world come to join the festivities. Padre Pio has become a global symbol of peace and love.
Argentina.
Argentina?
Sí, Argentina. Vine para esto, por el amor al Padre Pio.
Oh, he's here because of the love of Padre Pio. Oh my goodness, Philadelphia. I'm from Philadelphia. Do you bump into other Americans here? Come to this? Yeah, they believe in Padre Pio.
Everybody believes in Padre Pio.
But even the locals have a special way of showing their love for Padre Pio.
Come ti chiami?
Nicola Pio.
Niccolo? Ah, como Padre Pio.
Lui si chiama Pio.
Si chiama Pio.
Terence Leonardo Pio.
Terence Leonardo Pio.
With so many people in the streets, I couldn't believe my luck when I ran into a group of women who knew Padre Pio.
Ha visto stigmatica? Sì. This is unbelievable. She not only met Padre Pio, she saw his stigmata, she kissed his stigmata. This is pretty amazing that this is who I'm here with.
And then I met a woman who seemed to have all the answers I was looking for.
You believe that he had stigmata?
I believe. Why not? I believe. I believe strongly that he had it because all this transformation in this city could not have been done by an ordinary person. He has the feeling for the suffering, for the poor. You know, he's so selfless, he's not interested in himself. He's just a humble, patient, simple man with the characteristics of God.
Do you think that he inspires other people to want to be like Christ too?
Sure, look at the crowd. People have come from the US, from Africa, from all over the world in this occasion. So you can imagine.
We're at the end. There had to be 60,000 people here tonight, people from all around the world, people from Africa, Europe, America. There were believers, non-believers, Christians, people who were just curious. I'm curious. Why do so many people come to this place on this night?
Watching the fireworks, I started thinking about Padre Pio's stigmata. Did he really bleed from his hands for 50 years? Could he read people's souls and heal their hearts? If there was no way science could prove it, the pilgrims who were here tonight were proof that Padre Pio had an impact on millions of people. But my quest across Italy wasn't over. There was one more miracle only a few hours away that I had to look into. A communion host that had apparently transformed into what some people believed was the flesh of Christ. It was time to get back on the road. Italy's Abruzzo region on the Adriatic coast is known for its Roman ruins, medieval hilltop towns, and golden shoreline. But I'm skipping the beach and heading straight to Lanciano, a 3-hour drive from San Giovanni Rotondo and a lesser-known Christian pilgrimage site. This city is named after the Roman soldier Longinus, who it's said pierced Jesus' side on the cross, then returned here, eventually converting to Christianity. A church was built in his honor, and today the medieval Church of St. Francis stands above it. Inside is one of the oldest Catholic miracles of all time.
Over 1,200 years ago, in this ancient Roman town, a monk, struggling with his faith during Mass, watched as the bread and wine used during communion turned into actual flesh and blood. This is the very first Eucharistic miracle on record, and it's still around for us to see. After hundreds of tests have been done by scientists, they still can't explain it.
On my way to the church, I bumped into some pilgrims who had just visited the miracle.
Look at this big group. Where are you guys all from? Where are you from? From Singapore. God sent you here.
My wife forced me to come, so I come.
Your God and wife, now those are two strong forces, so together, that's hard to say no to, right? Which one's your wife? Yeah, oh, she's back there. She's back there, okay. Have you guys seen the Eucharistic miracle yet? Yes. Did anyone have any doubts that it was a miracle? Or does everyone, what was the most convincing? What made you think that it was real?
It looked like real flesh.
It looked like real flesh?
Yes.
If it didn't look like real flesh, would you believe it in any way just based on your faith?
We follow our faith. Singapore, faith is more important than
I was anxious to get a peek at the miracle myself and headed off to the church where I caught up with anatomy professor, Dr. Eugenio Bertelli. Besides being an expert on the human body, Dr. Bertelli also had a personal connection to the miracle. His grandfather was one of the first scientists ever allowed to conduct tests on it. tests that were never able to provide a rational scientific explanation for this mysterious occurrence.
So have you seen this miracle before?
No, this is the first time.
It's a first time for both of us, but I know as a man of science, he'll need a lot to be convinced.
Okay, come. This is the first and the greatest Eucharistic miracle that took place in our Catholic Church. This took place 12 centuries ago. The big host changed in flesh, and the wine changed in blood. And this flesh and this blood is here now.
Is the flesh rotting? I mean, if flesh was that old, it would smell and it would be old.
But no, it's really like living flesh.
It's like living flesh.
Blood.
If that were not a miracle, as it were, what would happen to flesh that old?
It would be dust right now.
It would be dust.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
This is
even,
what I-
be in a physical form.
Yeah. It's too old, I mean.
Do we know for sure that it's human flesh?
Because according to the scientific analysis that took place in the hospital of Arezzo, the flesh is living flesh and the blood is living blood. The flesh and the blood belong to the heart, part of the heart.
So far, the test results seemed incredible. We were looking at the heart muscle and coagulated blood of a human male, and it had been there for 1,200 years. I definitely needed a closer look, so we headed downstairs to the church's picture gallery.
This is the flesh.
The blood, the wine changed in blood.
That doesn't look like blood to me. It looks so hard.
Coagulated.
Oh, it's coagulated. Okay.
But this blood that solidified into 5 different clots didn't appear to behave the way other blood does.
The bishop took one and wait. After took another and wait, and wait all 5, and the weight was always the same.
They weighed the same amount.
Oh, no.
I mean, altogether?
Altogether, always the same.
That seemed like miraculous behavior to me, since it's scientifically impossible for each clump to have the same weight as the sum total of all 5 clumps together. But was there a way to prove it was in fact the body and blood of Christ, as the church claimed?
We know where this flesh and this blood come out. The monk celebrated the Mass. Every day, host is in his hands. This is my body. In that moment, the host changed in flesh. And this is my blood. And the wine changed in blood.
Okay. So it makes sense. It makes sense that it would be the blood, but we don't know that. We don't know that for a fact, right? I mean, unless I missed.
I think it's impossible to prove.
For me, I was no need of this miracle.
You know.
While a monk might not need proof to believe, I was betting that a scientist would. So I couldn't wait to hear what Dr. Bertelli thought of this miracle, especially since he was so familiar with his grandfather's report.
Let me say that I'm a little bit speechless. I mean, for sure it's an extraordinary event, for sure. Science demonstrated without any doubt that it's from a human sample. Even the blood is from a human sample. You have to place the things in an historical context, you know? Consider the 8th century. Imagine someone who's going to take heart from a body and is going to cut a slice. It's so thin, so regular, so continuous. And it's difficult to believe that there was anyone so skilled to do something like that with the tools of the time, I mean.
You're saying, as a man of science, it's reasonable to say that that's extraordinary and there's no explanation.
It's reasonable.
Yeah.
In this moment, there is no explanation, so people of faith can call it miracle.
Right.
People that have no faith can call it something not explainable yet.
Just not explainable yet.
Even for a man of science, it seemed miracles might exist with a little leap of faith. As for me, I couldn't quite make up my mind. Whether or not it was the body and blood of Christ, it was incredible that a piece of flesh could be so well preserved after 1,200 years. Is it a miracle? I might never know.
My trip to Italy is coming to an end. I've seen so many incredible things, most of which I can't fully explain. I came to get answers, but I think I'm leaving with even more questions. What I do know is that the devotion that these miracles inspire is very real. The rest, it all depends on what you're willing to believe. Ciao.
and they are called parenti of San Gennaro.
Parents?
Parent, like a cousin of San Gennaro.
Like family.
That's right.
He's part of the Naples family,
That's
San
right.
Gennaro.
He's a son of Naples.
He's the
San
son of
Gennaro
Naples.
is the son of Naples.
That's beautiful.
But with all the people crowded in the church, it's my blood that's starting to boil.
Waiting for a miracle can be very hard. I didn't see. Did you see it? Did you see it? I didn't see it. He just said it was liquid. Are you sure?
When normal blood leaves the human body, proteins within the blood are designed to make it clot so the bleeding stops. And in the natural world, once blood coagulates, it cannot uncoagulate. It was intriguing, but not entirely convincing.
But how do you go from that to saying, oh, I know, I think I'll use what I just came up with and pretend it's a blood miracle?
At the end of this experiment, they had obtained this strange compound behaving in that strange way, and they said, oh, wow, that could be used. Just pretending it is a miraculous
Okay, these are some very creative people, very creative. Because you started off by saying this was simple.
It is simple. I am just mixing A and B.
Okay. So do the church officials, do they have to do this experiment every year?
It's kind of tricky.
Right.
Some of my sample will last for a few months, and a few of my samples are lasting since 10 years maybe. I cannot say how long.
You're asking me, or this experiment's asking me, that I have to believe that the substance not blood, and I have to believe that this experiment could work for 1,200 years.
It should convince you that it is possible to reproduce the miracle by natural means.
This is the first church Padre Pio found when he first came to San Giovanni Rotondo, and he had been celebrating here for 40 years about.
And there were a lot of people who used to come to this church and still do, right?
Yes, yes, many people to see his mass and also for confessions. And then he...
But I had read that, so many different stories about it. I've read that he was sleeping when he got the stigmata, or that he was in a trance when he got the stigmata.
Oh,
What
no,
really
no, no,
happened?
No, no. He was not sleeping. He was praying, and then when he was praying, a heaven figure appeared to him.
Did Padre Pio enjoy his time that he lived here?
Padre Pio loved Pietrelcina like the pupils of his eyes.
I decided to see what Sharon Farber, a psychotherapist who specializes in cases of self-injury, had to say. Doctor, what explanation would you give for Padre Pio's stigmata?
My guess is that he suffered a lot as a child. How? I don't know. What happened? I would not know. But I think he suffered terribly.
Some people say, look, Padre Pio made these holes every day. We didn't get to inspect them. I'm sure he cut himself every day. Is it possible that someone with this psychological profile could make the wounds themselves and then honestly say to you, no, I didn't?
Yeah, I think so. When people experience extreme, excruciating pain, they dissociate their mind from their body. And they weren't lying. They just were not aware of doing it. They wanted to suffer so much the way Jesus did that they would inflict this on themselves.
According to Dr. Farber, Padre Pio could have willed the stigmata to appear on his body.
If someone is going to develop stigmata and they're accustomed to looking at images of Jesus nailed through the hands, chances are that's where they will develop their stigmata.
I thought back to the crucifixes I had seen in Padre Pio's room and inside the church at San Giovanni Rotondo. Would this explain it? I wanted to know what the Vatican's own miracle investigators thought of Padre Pio, because not only did he suffer from stigmata, but it was said his blood smelled of roses. He could see into people's souls and be in two different places at the exact same time. But so far, the Church hasn't recognized any of these qualities as miraculous. Why not? Do you think that it was a miracle?
Another fact is that everything is very well preserved.
Well, very well preserved, that's kind of an understatement. It's 1,200 years old, isn't it supposed to be rancid? Could give them a little more credit, right?
Yeah, well,
it's pretty extraordinary.
Yes, for sure.